Welcome back, everyone. Next up, we have Auscrete Corp. It trades on the OTC Pink sheets under the symbol ASCK and is on the cutting edge of the green movement with its concrete product because of its energy efficiency and minimal impact on the environment. Please welcome its president and CEO, John Spivery. Welcome, John.
Yes, thank you.
All right, we look forward to your presentation and video.
Okay. So, are we ready? Good afternoon. I'm John Spivery. My purpose here today is to introduce you to our OTC listed company, Auscrete Corporation, of which I am the CEO. We are a small manufacturer of concrete-based building materials and a supplier of affordable homes along with commercial and industrial buildings. This is my first presentation at the Emergent Growth conference venue, and I'm fairly sure that most attendees will not know anything about our company. So I'm going to try to give you as much information as possible within this presentation's allotted time slot, so you may be reasonably informed of our purpose for existence and pick up on the opportunities that exist for our company for both the United States and worldwide. I will be particularly concentrating on areas that reflect on our defined marketplace, and you will see that we address many of humankind's needs on many sides of the housing spectrum. Now that I have mentioned affordable homes, it's not hard to speculate that Auscrete products are a range of houses and commercial and industrial structures. Not so. Our products are specialised cement-based hybrid wall and roof panels used in the construction of houses and commercial buildings. Of course, to be effective in a specific market, particularly the housing sector, you have to have competitive edge that puts you in front of the more traditional construction methods and outcomes. Our product gives us that edge in a number of ways. There are substantial advantages in using our panels in general construction. The first advantage is that Auscrete manufactures a large range of specialty cement-based hybrid wall and roof panels that are of a high R value, being extremely thermally efficient, which are used in the construction of homes and other structures. This comes about by Auscrete's extensive development of insulation infusion incorporated within each panel. This thermal efficiency, which can also be eked with the use of solar panels, can significantly reduce reliance on the electrical grid supply and often can reverse the meter, supplying power back to the grid and resulting in very low utility bills. In addition to thermal efficiency, another relevant advantage is that our concrete panels do not burn. In fact, our product contains millions of tiny air bubbles that allow for expansion and contraction without spalling. Our basic cementitious product is sometimes used in steel buildings where it is applied around steel stanchions to protect them from distorting in the event of a fire. Having said that, it opens up a whole new area of properties that are highly advantageous and can improve the quality of living manyfold. I mentioned fire. We've all seen the incredible enormity of property and human losses, particularly over the last few years in the western states from wildfires. Each year, thousands of homes are completely decimated from wildfires. In 2020, Northwest wildfires throughout the year charred a record of 1 million acres in Oregon, destroying a total of 4,800 structures, including 1,145 homes. In Washington, 418 structures were lost, including 195 homes. California lost 4,200 structures from wildfires. Previously, this was the highest burned acreage ever recorded in modern times, but it certainly will be exceeded this year. Auscrete panels do not catch on fire. In fact, a house built of our materials will resist very high temperatures. I've seen buildings fitted with attractive steel shutters over the windows and entry areas that produce a nice outward appearance but will protect the property in extreme fire conditions. Of course, high insulation values also assist greatly for sound levels. The panels have an extraordinarily high level of sound abatement qualities. The entrained air creates considerable sound absorption, making the basic panels, when uninsulated, suitable for highway fences in built-up areas. This same quality in regular panels is true for sound studios, schools, hospitals, and many other noisy situations. Another important quality is the resistance to water damage. When we think about the southern coast and up through the northeast, particularly after the last number of years, if your Auscrete house was flooded, you likely will only need to hose it out and maybe a little paint if necessary. Auscrete houses are so well sealed it is far easier to provide ways to halt floodwater ingress. Another important quality is that the panels only weigh about 2/3 that of conventional concrete structures. That's not to say that they are light, but they are certainly easier to handle. They need lesser equipment during construction, and transportation is less costly. They can be delivered on flatbed trucks directly to the site and placed in their correct position as they are being unloaded. So this brings up the next question regarding inclement weather. The houses are still very heavy. My 2,000 square foot home weighs around 120 tonnes. It has a solid concrete roof and is robustly connected to a heavy concrete building slab below ground level, forming a solid mono-format, so you have all the weight sitting in and on the ground. What chance does a tornado have against what is essentially a heavy solid concrete block that can withstand almost anything nature can throw at it? Here is a concrete home. It's not ours, but in the Gulf Coast. This was taken after a tornado, and as you can see, it is just about the last house standing. The panels are also impervious to mould, rot and insect infestation, and the required maintenance over time is very minimal. The next edge is the cost to build an Auscrete home. As I said, we build the construction panels in a factory format. There are a lot of savings using mass production techniques. We're able to produce a home complete with kitchen cabinets and appliances, complete bathrooms and floor coverings, turnkey, ready to move in for less than $110 per square foot. Typically, stick-built timber homes start at around $150 and can go up to many hundreds of dollars per square foot. Because we quickly complete a house on its site in, say, 5 to 7 days, we save a lot on reduced labour cost, and this saves the customer money. Typically, the cost of an Auscrete home is around only 2/3 that of a traditional timber home that takes about 7 months to complete. The next edge for us is access to the market. Who doesn't want a beautiful, sturdy, safe home at a very reasonable cost? The biggest consumer market in the US and throughout the world is housing. It is incomprehensible to fully assess the market size for our homes and structures, but we can break it down a little into new and replacement structures. New development in the US has seen multiple years of average housing starts in the 2 to 3 million per year range. However, it is believed that this is a small percentage of what is needed, possibly 10 times short according to some sources. Our own in-company guess is that if the US builders could produce 10 million houses per year at a price point that is affordable, which is defined by payments being less than 30% of gross income per year, they could probably meet the market for new housing. There is a lot of information and data about the housing market available online for research. However, the replacement market is a very different thing. You can look back many years in California, Texas and Oregon, and the whole length of the Gulf Coast along with many other areas. Look particularly at the last few years. We have seen literally millions of homes destroyed by fires, floods, tornadoes and powerful hurricanes, along with the usual attrition rate of older homes. Many cannot be rebuilt because they were uninsured or people couldn't afford to get new mortgages due to their financial situation. We can make it easier for many to rebuild because we can cater to the affordable market big time. Our short-term construction duration can often cover the usually necessary construction loan, which is difficult for most. The bottom line is the market for our homes and commercial structures is difficult to calculate. So we increase our output to 300 homes per year, which will probably happen around late next year based on current averages. That's about 0.00003% of the predicted but reduced market size. However, to us this is around $45 million in revenues. With a projected return on investment of around 24% due to mass production techniques, we should expect exceptionally strong support for our stock. Auscrete Corporation is a small, publicly listed company located in Goldendale, Washington, adjacent to the John Day Dam, and uses around 18,000 square feet of leased factory space. Although the company had an S1 approved in 2014, there was never an IPO funding commenced. For a few years, the company survived on toxic notes to cover ongoing development costs of the dedicated machinery and equipment. With the notes totally completed and gone in February 2018, the company garnered the financial support of Brett Rosen from RB Capital Inc. in San Diego. So later in 2018, the company placed orders for their specialised equipment, locally and imported, that had been developed by Auscrete to provide automation for the manufacturing process, storage and shipping of the proprietary panels. Much of the equipment arrived by late 2019 and building of the production facility was able to commence. The production plant was ready for testing and output by late 2020 and finalisation of the process was around January 2021. Since commencing product output in February, the company has mainly produced a range of smaller homes that are part of an order for over 50 units. These will be used for the general public living units as well as to assist in the provision of suitable housing and for homeless and displaced families, and 28 units will be applied to a Veterans Association dwelling group for temporary and permanent residents. Right now, these projects alone have projected revenues of over $2 million. Auscrete is an OTC Pink traded company that is totally up to date with filings. The company currently has around 3.5 million shares issued and out, of which 2.8 million are in the float. Our share value is currently around a tenth of where it should be. We haven't done much PR for the company during this preliminary period and consequently our stock has suffered considerably. We should be at a much greater value right now. However, with only 2.8 million shares out there, we aren't getting much trading or volume at all. Nevertheless, we can now give the stock some renewed support with our current operations, offering some newsworthy data as we move forward. In conclusion, I certainly believe our company is a hold investment once it has levelled out, because I think the results we'll see over the next few years will be eye-popping. We will need to build another manufacturing plant in another area close to one of our markets, as we will not be able to produce the products at the rate to even closely address the replacement market, let alone for new structures. I hope I have been successful in introducing Auscrete Corporation to you, and I also hope that you can follow our activities to expand our base as needed. Of course, I am here not only to show you a corporate picture of our status, but to show off the many ways our products can help reduce the ongoing housing carnage that we see so regularly these days. Perhaps you know somebody that could benefit from our technology. We would love to tell them about our solutions. Thank you for listening to this presentation, and I hope we have achieved some positive development that will help us mould our direction into the future. I think it is time for questions. Thank you.
Great. I think we are complete with that video. So, John, we have some questions for you. From Charles Perry, he wants to know what is your web address? He didn't see that.
Okay, we're Auscrete Homes, that's HOMES.com.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Mm-hmm. And Emmett Bates wants to know, is this an Australian company?
No, it's not an Australian company. It's an American company, and it's registered here in the Northwest in Wyoming. The name Auscrete is actually a shortened version of Australian concrete, because the concrete technology, or part of the technology we use, is actually was developed in Australia back in the 80s, and so the company used that technology to get started here in the United States. I guess the bottom line here, no, there is no Australian connection with this company.
Okay. And Brian Smith wants to know, what's the largest building that you can make?
Okay. Well, actually, the Australian technology was used in Southeast Asia for a few years before we actually started using it over here. And I've been over there to inspect some of the buildings that they built. They have 13 and 15-story buildings that they've done over there for apartment blocks and all sorts of living arrangements. But we can build that sort of type of building here. We've looked at 5-story and 6-story buildings for apartment blocks and various other uses. But typically at the moment, and probably over the next few years, we would probably restrict ourselves to 2-story buildings. But certainly the product can be used. We're looking at a hotel down in Jamaica that we're looking to build. It is 4 stories. So but at the moment, we'll be sticking around 2 stories.
Okay. Kinsey Erickson says, why do you only have 3.5 million shares out there? Most small companies have many million shares out.
Yes. As I stated just a while ago, the company has had some toxic financing some years ago, back in 2017, and what actually happened is that, as happens with a lot of the notes, convertible notes that you take, they just run away with your shares, and next thing you know, you've got 1 billion shares and don't know what to do with them. We had to roll back our stock, and we rolled it back to 3.5 million shares, and that's what we have out right now. About just under 3 million shares out in the float at the moment. But that was the reason. That was the reason.
Thank you for that. Ernest Pruitt asks how long you've been making concrete buildings.
We started in 2006 here in the United States. It was a private company, Auscrete Corporation, just a private company, and we started making commercial buildings, houses, and my own house at that time as well. And so that's been quite a few years at the present. What has happened is that we went public back in 2010, but we didn't actually get an S1 completed until 2014. So we were still working out of the private company until actually 2016. But so that doesn't show up on the paperwork for our company. But then we took over all the assets and the whole company into the public company. And so we've been building them for 15 years.
Well, Kalia Valencia asks, with so few shares out there, can I buy shares direct from your treasury?
Yes, of course. We can do that. Of course, they'll be restricted. They won't be immediately available for transactions. But yes, we can sell shares directly from our treasury, and it would be at the current rate that the company is trading at.
Christine Berry asks that you mentioned another factory soon. Where do you think it might be?
It's difficult. We haven't made a final decision because there is such an enormous market for our product around the country. But our thoughts are to the areas that I mentioned a while ago, where the fires are in California and down on the South Coast. So that's the sort of market that we've tried to get close to. It could be as simple as just putting a factory down in Southern Oregon to supply into California and across from there. We actually can deliver our product over 1,000 miles. In fact, it's still economical up to 3,000 miles. So we could basically deliver panels right across the whole country. But typically 1,000 miles is a reasonable area. So if we were in Southern Oregon or Arizona, we could certainly address all of those problem areas we're seeing down in Texas and along the Gulf Coast. So that will probably be our next factory to go up.
Israel Gaudet asks if you have any contracts already planned to be fulfilled with this new facility, and if so, what are the expected revenues and when the facility is planned to be completed and operational?
I assume you're talking about a new facility, not the one that we're currently working out of. Is that correct?
I'm going to assume the same thing, yes.
Yeah, okay. If we start a new factory down in Southern Oregon, or wherever, it takes about a year by the time we have all the special equipment made and put up into a place. And typically we would try to lease a factory that would save us, a fair bit of time right there. But we'd probably be up and rolling within a year and a half. But our current factory, just to clear it up, our current factory is up and running, and we're currently working on a line of about 50 small homes. So we're up and running in our current factory. We're not waiting for anything there. With a new factory, we could probably get up to 300 homes a year out of a reasonable size factory. And that would put our revenue somewhere in the area of around 45 million per annum, and that would be a good return for us, certainly. But of course, that would only be the beginning, because by that time we'll have a lot of people looking for houses, and I think we'll have to start addressing putting factories in other areas as well. It's not an expensive factory to actually put up. We can usually put a factory up in for a cost of around $1.5 to $2 million. So it's not a big investment to get a factory going that can produce $45 million a year in revenues.
Danielle Rodriguez asks, how does Auscrete develop semi-lightweight hybrid concrete insulation, rival and compete with hempcretes, very similar properties being fire retardant, insect repellent?
Yeah, most of those typical Crete names with Crete on the back, and they use the same lightweight type of formula that we do. It originally came from Australia in 1985, and as I say, it went out into Southeast Asia and into the United States. Here, there was a company down in California that was developing it, and then they sold it on to other places. That is the basic concrete. It is fire. Well, it won't burn. It certainly has all of the properties that are needed. The one thing that it doesn't have is it doesn't have thermal efficiency.
typically all of those types of buildings that they're actually building in Arizona and places like that, they're about R4. And we're up here in the northwest, we're fairly north, and we have some fairly low temperatures up here, down to the zeros. So we need to have much better insulation, and of course, to be able to comply with code requirements for building buildings. So we redeveloped the product back in 2008, 2009, and we made up a hybrid type of panel that we're able to produce very easily, but we're able to get up to R36 in some of the roof panels and R24 in some of the wall panels. So that's the difference. We don't, our technology actually allows us to build houses that conform to the international building codes, and that would be the difference between these other companies.
Rain Chavez asks, what are the limitations or strengths of your product versus traditional building materials?
Well, we have to compare it to concrete because that's what it is. We're about 3,000 PSI. If the questioner knows anything about the strength of concrete. Typically, most concrete, which they call 5-bag, goes at about 32 to 3,600 pounds per square inch. So we're right up there with strength. Our strength is hardly diminished. If you compared to a regular concrete or a regular timber home, there's no comparison. Many times stronger than a timber home.
And I bet this is the last question for you. So are there any, let's do this one. So you mentioned you took some toxic debt. So toxic debt in the past. Are you completely done with that? And can you explain briefly the structure with Rosen?
Yes, yes, we're completely done with any of that debt. We don't touch that at all. As far as the arrangement with Rosen is that he is giving us funds to work on to get this new factory up and going. He has been for a couple of years, and we've been successful in doing that. He has a guarantee against the shares of our company. So if at any time we are unable to repay him, we'll have to give him shares, issue him shares. He's never been issued a share at this stage. So.
All right. Well, John, we've got more questions for you, but we're going to send them directly to you so you can answer them on your own time. And we will move on to our next presenter. But please come back to our conference and present again with some updates.
Yeah, we will do. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. All right, everyone, as we transition to the next presenter, remember you'll see a black screen. We'll be right back.